Welcome into another edition of the Cory Sanding Show, everybody. I'm your host, unfortunately yours truly, on this Monday evening. I've forgotten what time it was. Coming at you again live here in the East Tennessee region. As you can tell, I am very, very much not feeling it today, and I wonder if a certain football team last night had something to do with that. But welcome into the show, everybody. Hope you had a great first weekend of NFL football, the best sport in the world. I certainly did until later on in the evening, until about 11:30 at night. We'll get into that here in a second, but I got a good show for you. Going to react to some games, react to some action, react to some highlights. We're going to do introducing a new segment of the show. It's going to be a regular at the end. I like to call them Mad Minute. Those of you that are my age remember those in school. They weren't the funnest in the world simply because I didn't like math, but this Mad Minute's going to be different. I hope you stick around for this one. It's actually pretty fun and pretty funny. But I'd be remiss. First and foremost, for those of you that are just tuning in on YouTube, please like the video if you enjoy it. Comment, chat live, comment to boost the algorithm. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got so much stuff on the horizon, including merchandise, including guests, including interviews, including new content segments. I cannot wait for what's on the horizon, and I can't wait for this show either, because my friend just in our group chat just said that the Bears are going to put belt to ass with the Vikings, which I'm not so sure about. I'm going to put belt to ass on a other team wearing purple here in just a second. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this episode's sponsor, my favorite meal prep service in the world, Clean Eats Knoxville. Clean Eats is one of the easiest and simplest ways to get your meal prep in if you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, trying to make choices that'll help you lose weight or help perhaps pack on some muscle if you do it right. I'm going to share my screen here for just a second, show you how easy it is to place an order. There you see Jordan Palmer, which, for what he did and didn't do as an athlete. All you do, take the prep out of meal planning. You go here. You place your order between Tuesday and Sunday, midnight. It's the cutoff time. It's very strict. You'll miss out. Trust me, I've done it before. It sucks. Visit the cafe nearest to you. Rinse, repeat. It's that easy. And you come over here. Obviously, my location, Knoxville, Bearden. You can join the meal plan email menu where you'll get notifications and updates regarding the new meals that are coming ahead every week, because it does cycle every week. You don't just go to the cafe and pick out the same thing every day, unless that's what you want to do. You're actually able to do that. Here's some reviews from some customers. The only thing I eat, Cassandra, I related to you very well. These meal plans are perfect for getting your protein in. Every meal is delicious and so easy to make. Yeah, it's easy to make because all we have to do is throw it in the microwave for 90 seconds. Love healthy, reasonably priced meals from Michelle. Love the great macro-friendly meals that they very much are. And you can download a macro matrix for every single meal now, every single week. Such a step towards eating healthy, or such a help towards eating healthy. I think I phrased it better. And the last review here from Donna, why I chose Clean Eats. I looked long and hard to find a meal plan I could afford. Same. Broke college student for a long time and broke news reporter as well. Was healthy and easy to get to me. Easy. You guys met me all the way. Thank you for letting this old can no longer be trusted around a stove lady have delicious meals. I highly doubt that, Donna. I reckon you're actually a very good cook, but that was pretty entertaining. But all you got to do is click order. That'll get your location nearest to you. As you can see, the new meal plan menu will go live Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So tomorrow morning, I'll be seeing what we've got next week. But you can also go here and purchase merchandise. You can order different types of meal plans. If you go down here to the bottom, you can even look into the rewards program, buy some merchandise, and you can even look into franchising a location, which I have thought about over the years. Most of the meal plan information and contact us, nutrition guides, and you can send an e-gift as well if you want to. Clean Eats, it's not just a diet, it's a lifestyle. But as I told you all at the top of the show, this was not going to be a pleasant one for me, because I've got to speak some hard truths after I came here prancing, ranting, and raving on how good my Ravens were. I guess let's get right into it. Bills come back somehow, some way to beat the Ravens 41-40 in Buffalo. Last home opener at Highmark Stadium for the Bills, so a little bit of magic in the air. But this game, lo and behold, 4 minutes and 55 seconds to play. The Ravens are up 40-25. They've been running the ball down their throat. They've been passing it all over them. Defense had its moments. It's still got diced up by Josh Allen, particularly in the fourth quarter. But you're up double digits with less than 5 minutes to play. 99.1% chance to win, according to ESPN Analytics at the time. And the Ravens, much as they've done in the Harbaugh-Lamar era, find a way to lose. It's almost like we remember how we used to always say this about the Cowboys, because Stephen A. Smith and the first take jokes, but it rang out to be true. The Ravens were a team you never said this about until this regime came along. And this regime includes an all-time great quarterback, an all-time great running back, a very, very explosive receiving corps. As we saw, Zay Flowers, 7 catches, 143 yards, career high for him and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, that 29-yard touchdown grab was vintage D-Hop. Mark Andrews only had 1 target, kind of head-scratching, but Derrick Henry, 14 carries at one point, had 175 yards. The Ravens got everything they wanted, except on the special teams and on the defensive side of the ball. And aside from one costly mistake late, the offense had its way, much like it did last year for most of the season. But give credit to the Bills. They never gave up. They kept fighting. Josh Allen ends the game 33 of 46 for 394 yards. Yikes, through the air. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Only took 1 sack the entire game, which is something we'll get into here in a second. Good for a QBR 78.8, passer rating of 112. Where Josh Allen really did a lot of his damage was in the fourth quarter. That was when the Ravens defense, as it has in recent memory, completely came apart. They just sat back and played zone the entire fourth quarter. I don't know why they didn't make any adjustments to man. No pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. Unless they had a design blitz, Josh Allen just sat back there and could just sit back there and have a cup of coffee, maybe read Time magazine, the morning paper. Who knows? Maybe he could have even ran to the grocery store and back and still gotten a pass off before the Ravens pass rush could get to him. What little pass rush they had. They looked slow. They looked unathletic. They looked out of shape. Maybe they'll have to play their way into shape and be better, but there's no reason you shouldn't be prepared coming into a season when this is your make or break year. This is that you all been saying it all training camp too. This is the year I think we're going to put it all together. And the first step is if this is going to be indicative of anything that happens later on in the season, which at this point, how can I argue that? It's not going to end how you want it or I want it. Let's move to the other side of the ball, though. I mean, the Bills rushed for 108 yards. They didn't really – I mean, Josh Allen only ran the ball 14 times for 30 yards. He had a couple touchdowns, so he still was effective in the red zone. Lamar was Lamar, 14 – only threw the ball 19 times. I figured they would throw more against a decimated secondary starting 2 6-round corners. I don't know. Lamar, 14 and 19, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 2 sacks. QBR of 94, which is off the charts. And a passer rating of 144.4, which is 32.5 points higher, believe it or not, than Josh Allen. And many people say Josh Allen outplayed Lamar. I mean, his team won, so you can't argue with some people there. Derrick Henry, still the ageless wonder, 18 carries, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, had the costly fumble that we mentioned earlier that really, I mean, the Bills scored, cut it to 8, but that really... You kind of got the sense there what direction this game was going when that happened, because Derrick Henry never fumbles. And that was just a turning point. Lamar, 6 carries for 7 yards and a touchdown, was great on the ground as well. Then you go to Zay Flowers, who 7 catches, $143 and a touchdown, was reminding the crowd, hey, I wasn't here. I'm here this time. And he had every right to say that because he was slicing them up. DeAndre Hopkins only had 2 catches for 35 yards, but that 29-yard touchdown was vintage D-Hop. That's all they brought him in here for. He is their number 3 guy. But speaking of number 2 guy, Rashad Bateman only had 2 catches for 10 yards. And I believe he had 4 targets, but I will expect that number to increase in coming weeks. But, I mean, Buffalo's receivers did their thing as well. Keon Coleman had 8 catches for 112 yards and the luckiest touchdown in the world. And, I was the bitter fan of me, just could not get over that last night when I struggled to sleep after this game because I have to get up early in the morning to get my workout in. And I thought, the more and more I thought about it today as I calmed down, I realized that when you're going against a team that defensively drops 3 interceptions, gets 1 sack all day and hardly generates any pressure and rotates two very young, inexperienced, raw linebackers next to Roquan Smith, along with corners that were veteran corners, first-round corners, all-pro corners that were just struggling to cover, struggling in the defensive scheme. I don't know what it was. They deserve to get lucky on that play. Remember, you know what play I'm talking about, 4th down and goal at the late in the fourth quarter when Josh Allen threw the pass that I forget what tight end tipped it up in the air, and then all of a sudden Keon Coleman, excellent concentration, somehow comes down with it. That's a once in 100 play. But I guess when you keep fighting and you never give up and you execute and you play clean, turnover-free football, that things go your way. That's exactly what happened in the playoff game. The Ravens outgained the Bills in that game by more than 150 yards. They were unstoppable. Much like this game was even worse because they were gashing them. I believe the Ravens scored on 7 of their first 8 drives. They had 40 points. But your defense gives up 28 second-half points regardless of the fumble or not. You cannot give up that many. I mean, to let a quarterback alone throw for 260 yards in the fourth quarter it's just unbelievable. And if you take a look at the numbers right here, this is not fake. I promise you. Teams trailing by 15 points in the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter since 2000, entering Sunday, were 3 and 2,312. They're now 3 and 2,312. Yeah, I realize how ridiculous that sounds. 3 and 2,312. And it just so happened to happen to the Ravens on Monday. They make their own bed. I love them to death, and I will bleed purple until the day I die. But at the same time, this is getting old. And you know who it ultimately falls back on? Derrick Henry took onus of it. He fumbled the ball. That's probably not going to happen much or many more times throughout the season, especially not when he's about to eclipse 200 rushing yards. But that defense that was supposed to have taken a step forward after being the number one defense those of you that remember, until about the midway point of the season, the Ravens had the 31st ranked pass defense. That's why they kept getting shredded every week. They were somehow overcoming it against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. I don't know how they overcame those games, but they did. It's because Lamar's the best player in the NFL, but that's neither here nor there. Then they made the switch to Ardarius. They got rid of Marcus Williams and Eddie Jackson. Thank God. And they made the switch and inserted Ardarius Washington, moved Kyle Hamilton back to the free safety full-time. He's the quarterback of the secondary, and they were the first top-ranked defense in every single statistical category from that point on. I believe it may have been week 10 or week 11, one of the two. And they added Jair Alexander, despite being unhealthy. He was a contributor when he was. I mean, he hasn't practiced for the last month. Had his knee drained in July, then had a little cleanup. John Harbaugh wasn't specific about it. Recently, did not look good, and maybe he's not fully 100%, but he got burned twice on that final drive and had the costly pass interference penalty early on in the game. Looked bad. Chidobe Awuzie looked good, but dropped that interception, which would have been monumental in terms of shifting the momentum back in favor of the Ravens. Malachi Starks, first-round safety, looked the part a lot for most part, except dropped that interception. Marlon Humphrey wasn't bad, but didn't make any game-changing plays. Same with Nate Wiggins. He had a costly pass interference penalty, and he didn't make any game-changing plays. Don't even get me started on the pass rush. Roquan Smith did all he could, but it seems like it's going to be a lot more of the same this year in terms of trying to get Trenton Simpson and rookie Teddy Buchanan, who actually had more snaps than Trenton Simpson, up to speed. And at this point, I don't know if Trenton Simpson's the guy. Go to the offensive side of the ball. There's not much to complain about other than they got stopped. Their final 3 drives, they managed no points. I don't even think they got to the other side of the field, and they fumbled because they got conservative late. And this is a common thread under John Harbaugh. And I'm just going to bring up another fact here. John Harbaugh, this is since 1990. And the only reason that this is since 1990 is not because there was a lot of guys blowing double-digit leads in the 80s. It's just as far back as data such as that goes. John Harbaugh, if you read here on the screen, has 17 double-digit leads that he's blown in the second half. 17. And this is a Super Bowl winner. This is a guy that went from 2008 to 2015 when they stopped making the playoffs, in the Joe Flacco, the Harbaugh-Flacco era, was considered one of a guy that the Ravens always performed well in the clutch. They performed better in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. That was always their motto. And now that you have an all-time great generational quarterback, you choke in some of that's on Lamar. It has been in years past. I think last year and the year before, a lot of it has to do with the coaching staff. But how is this possible with the roster you've had the past 5 years? How is this possible when you have a Super Bowl championship and you have 4 AFC title game appearances? I mean, come on. You come from a coaching tree where you coached under Andy Reid, who's arguably the best coach in the game today and one of the best coaches ever. Top 5. Wouldn't be surprised if some people put him in there. John Harbaugh is a surefire Hall of Famer. He hangs it up today. He's going to have a bust in Canton. He's going to get that jacket and give that speech. But to say that they haven't underachieved because John Harbaugh has been their head coach would be a verbal obscenity at this point, would be irresponsible. One thing that frustrates me, and I have this group chat with my brother, I guess I could all say my brothers, even if some of them are from different mothers. But you come into a season and everything is supposed to be different. This is a year in and year out theme with the Ravens. Hey, man, we're ready. We're tired of coming up short. I know Lamar's. I know these guys are tired of coming up short. Derrick Henry's not getting any younger. He wants a Super Bowl ring. There's no reason that this team can't go win it all. They were the better team yesterday for 3 3/4 quarters, and it wasn't even close. Zach Orr's got to get this defense together. Again, this is a make-or-break time for Zach Orr, too, because if this unit struggles the rest of the season and ends up costing them a long playoff run, who knows? They're going to say, oh, well, that guy in the second half of last season was just an aberration. That's not really the guy. That's not it. Sorry to be talking with my hands, but I'm frustrated if you can't tell. And you get conservative in this conservative mindset has always killed me about this team, even dating back to the Flacco days when they weren't really one of the top flight offenses. Definitely weren't the offense they've been the last 2 to 3 years under Todd Monken, but the conservative play calling on offense. You get the ball back after the fumble and you run it with Derrick Henry on first down, gets a yard or two. I believe it was just 1 yard. And on second down, we do a jet sweep with Zay Flowers. Now, I have gotten some additional context since then, and I did hear that Lamar apparently had the option to pull it down and run. I wish he had. Not putting it on Lamar, but then third down comes, and you have Lamar. For some reason, you have Lamar go out and literally speak to DeAndre Hopkins in front of everybody, and then he throws it to him short of the sticks. And then you have a 4th and 3, and you punt it back to a red-hot Bills team and a red-hot quarterback who's one of the best of his era at home in a highly intense, highly emotional environment. This was as magical as it could be. And honestly, I mean, it makes a great story. It really does. I mean, you look back and be like, oh, well, we got blown out by the Ravens on our last game at Highmark Stadium, the stadium that was there when, the Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row in the 90s because that's as close as they've gotten because they're not a city of winners, as Sean McDermott said afterwards. And that's the bitter fan in me coming out. Bills fans, you'd speak highly of them when they were bad. But over the past few years, they remind me of Cincinnati fans from 21 to 22 during their little fluky Super Bowl run that they had. When they didn't win one, of course, because they talk so entitled, and they come out here they've come on this very show on my podcast and said, oh, the dumbest fan base in the NFL, of course, it's coming from the Ravens. And then you educate them with facts, and they just try to say, oh, well, isn't that what should happen? Yeah, that should, the Bills should have won that game because it's the better story. Unless you're on Baltimore side of things. But I mean, let's get into next to special team gaffes. I mean, You set them up with great field position multiple times because you allowed them to return the ball. Tyler Loop had I forget it was Tyler Loop or Jordan Stout. I think it was Loop. Kicked the ball outside of the landing zone. They got to move it up to the 40, which I am not a fan of this kickoff rule. I'm sorry. I think we should go back to the way it was in the past. Oh, this gets on my nerves. But one thing I will say, Trenton Simpson, I guess one thing that made him fall out of favor with John Harbaugh, who was a former special teams coach under Andy Reid, like I said before, Trenton Simpson could have downed the ball inside the 1 yard line or at the 1 yard line and chooses to slide on it. And because some of his forearm and his fingers hit the white line, by rule, that's a touchback. How? That is bad coaching. I'm sorry, it just is. And speaking of coaching, here's another number that I'm going to bring up. Teams that have scored 40-plus points and rushed for 235 or more yards. 235 yards. Take that into account. That is a lot. That means you're getting gashed. They're taking your lunch. Teams that have done that in a game were 277-0, including the playoffs. After last night, they're 277-1. And for some reason, this guy is always at the helm of these record-breaking, historic collapses. It's insane to me that he's the second longest tenured head coach, and he's had as much success as he's had. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't deserved and he didn't earn it. I'm just saying, who is this guy that we've got in the past few years? I don't recognize him. I really don't. There have been moments I do. There are moments the Ravens come up big, but for the most part, they've struggled in one score or less or close games in the past 5 years. And like I said, they've blown many, many double-digit leads. There are memes out there that will live in infamy forever of how many double-digit leads the Ravens have blown in the past 3 to 4 years. It's ridiculous. Like I said, they shoot themselves in the foot even when their offense is rolling. I said it at the beginning of the fourth quarter when we were going into it. I told my friend, I was like, the Ravens have to force a turnover. They have to. They just won to change the momentum. And it was Buffalo that forced that turnover. I knew that unless Buffalo, if Buffalo started scoring and coming back, which I thought they would because they're at home and they have Josh Allen, then you have to get a turnover. You have to stall that momentum. You have to make the play. And the Ravens had 3 chances, at least we know of, to make the play. Kyle Hamilton almost blocked that game-winning kick, but at that point, you're relying on a miracle to happen to win the game. And you shouldn't even have been in that spot. Forgive me. And you shouldn't have been in that spot when your 2 best guys were going off. Now, Derrick Henry had the fumble. That's inexcusable for a guy, but at least he took accountability for it. He didn't give us some rah-rah speech that he always seems to have after the losses that sounds the same every time. I'm not trying to bash John Harbaugh because I think he's a great coach and a great guy. I really do. When I interviewed for a job at the Ravens, you had to make a pass at John Harbaugh, even though it was virtually. And great guy. Really is. He's someone, if I still played, if I was somewhat good enough to play, I'd love to play for a guy like that. But at the same time, a guy like that hasn't gotten one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen a championship of even appearance in his first 7 seasons. And they've had ample opportunity, especially 2 years where they were juggernauts and had the 1 seed and great defenses. I see my phone is going off over here, and I'm going to just check and see what the hell this is. Oh, Lord. I think my friend just said he was going to get the Bears Super Bowl tatted, which I don't. Trevor, if you're watching, sorry, dude, that's never going to happen. But one thing that I thought, was so ironic when this game was going on is because the Ravens were, like I said, they were dominant on offense. Through the air, on the ground especially. They had their moments through the air. DeAndre Hopkins, Zay Flowers, and Lamar was Lamar. But I remember that I forget what touchdown it was. It may have been the D-Hop. It may have been the second Derrick Henry score. But there was a moment in the game when, heading into commercial break, the broadcast played a certain song, so to speak. Older people that are tuning in or going to view this later are going to know what I'm talking about when I play this song. And I'm going to remix it to what it should have said, because I remember this is a very specific moment of the broadcast, and I actually told it to some of my coworkers today. But I'll let you. Here. This is what I'm talking about. This is the song that the NBC played after the Ravens scored and were up double digits.
Everyone's watching to see what you do.
Should have been everyone's watching to see if you will lose. As corny as that sounds, it's the truth, because, Ravens in primetime games with double-digit leads. Lord have mercy. Usually in the regular season, it's house money. Usually it's the playoffs that you have to worry about, and even though they don't really usually get double-digit leads in the playoffs lately. But at the end of the day, some major changes have to happen, and it comes from the top down. I mean, the players, you can blame them a lot. You can blame them for not executing and making those mistakes, but it comes to preparation, and this has just become too alarming of a trend. This keeps happening over and over and over and over again, and fans are sick of it. And honestly, people who can watch the game objectively probably are sick of it as well too, because this is a potentially all-time great team that shoots itself in the foot. And as Bill Belichick said it, as every single intelligent analyst has said it, the only team that can beat the Ravens and the best team at beating the Ravens is the Ravens. And like Kyle Hamilton said, it's who they are until they show they aren't. And I think we have to all come to accept that. But we're going to get into the next one. Green Bay puts, put it mildly, ass whooping on Detroit in their season opener at home. As many of you know that have actually watched this show, I picked the Lions to repeat as NFC North champions. Had the Packers coming in second, mostly because of the continuity. Great coaching in Detroit. Defense is going to be healthy. Then Sunday happened, and Green Bay comes out looking like the juggernaut in the NFC North. And typically you say, you're just reacting. It's over one reaction. A week one overreaction. Maybe it is. Maybe, who knows what it'll turn out to be. I'd like to be proven right, but I should have reserved the right to change this pick, because it wasn't even what Michael Parsons brought, which we'll get into here in a second. Green Bay just looked like the better team, and they didn't even have their best performance. You look at it, Jordan Love completes 16 of 22 passes, hella efficient. Only had 188 yards, but had a couple touchdowns. He didn't take a sack. He didn't throw an interception. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Solid. Then you have, they didn't even have, Romeo Doubs was their leading receiver when he only had 2 catches for 68 yards. But then you look on the other side of the ball, Jared Goff, 31 of 39, not horrible, but 225 yards, only a touchdown and interception. He took 4 sacks. Only had a QBR of 52.9, round that up to 53. Detroit on the ground, David Montgomery, 11 carries for 25 yards, averaging 2.3 yards a carry. And then it's even worse. My brother attests to this because of his fantasy team. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries, 19 yards, only averaged 2.1 yards a carry. Had a long of 14. That was it. Sam Laporta was their leading receiver with 6 catches for 79 yards. Amon-Ra only had 4 catches for 45. You can't win with that. And they were just outgunned through and through. And I am currently getting a phone call while I'm live on here. I think this is the second time she's done this. Hey, babe.
Hi.
You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, podcast peoples.
I guess you're going to hear us have this conversation. What's up?
Never mind. I was just going to chat and say goodnight. I love you. All the fun things.
She's going to tell me goodnight at 8:45, y'all. I know I'm an old man, but I don't go to bed that early.
And ask if you were coming to see me at work since I'm working night shift.
Well, I guess the journeyman will find out after I'm done with this podcast.
Okay. Love you. Go have fun.
All right. Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
That was a new segment I like to call the fiance call. But back to the topic at hand. Green Bay thoroughly throttles Detroit. I normally, like I said, week one, you'd never know what could happen. Who knows? Maybe the Ravens will win every game for the rest of the season. Doubt it, but maybe. But this wasn't even close. I know it was 27-13. Reality was 27-7. This game wasn't even close. Green Bay dominated from start to finish. Micah Parsons had an impact. I know he wasn't, necessarily the game record the entire time, but I mean, he finished with a sack. His presence there was felt. He was making an impact even when he wasn't in the backfield hitting the quarterback. Which maybe you know, I mean, I've been critical of Micah Parsons in the past for not being a complete edge, you know, being able to stop the run and make big plays when it matters most. You know, he's not an edge, but a la like an Aaron Donald, like you know, go back years and years. You got like guys like Terrell Suggs, and then I'm sure there's people I'm leaving off that I shouldn't, but Green Bay, man, wow, they looked good. That's all I can say because I've said for the past couple of years that Green Bay's got Super Bowl potential and it's going to come sooner than later. Their time. They're going to get to that stage sooner than later. I'm convinced it's probably going to be in the next 2 years. But I wish I'd reserved the right to change my pick live on the show because that would have definitely made me look a little smarter come December when, who knows, Green Bay's locking up a home field playoff game because they've got the division in hand. Who knows? Maybe Detroit bounces back. I hope they certainly don't in 2 weeks because they play the Ravens on Monday Night Football, but we'll see. Green Bay, man, thoroughly impressed. That wasn't even the best game they could play. I know they got a lot more. They have a lot more on offense than 27 points at all. Who knows how good that defense can be? Who knows if Jared Goff will go back to being Jared Goff, which he's highly capable of doing. And everyone says, what the hell do you mean by going back to being Jared Goff? Prior to last season, let's just say that. It's good. It's not great. He went to a Super Bowl. Very fortunate to do so. Nonetheless, scored 3 points. They traded for Matt Stafford in Detroit. LA traded for Matt Stafford, and they got it done because they got a guy that has a generational arm talent. But Green Bay are my new favorites in the North. I know I'm backtracking. Not changing my pick. I'm going down with the ship, but I think Vegas disagrees with me, and I see why. Detroit didn't look like the world beaters that they were last year, and it was because Green Bay shut them down. And if as wide open as the NFC is outside of Philadelphia, you got to take advantage of these years. You got to take advantage of this time right now, just like everyone in the AFC now has to take advantage of the Chiefs not being the Chiefs, so to say. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll turn out to be the Chiefs and get the top seed again. Who knows? Maybe the AFC will go through Arrowhead yet again. As Nick Wright termed it, the Arrowhead Invitational, and he's every right to do that. But yeah, they have I like their chances. I really do. Do I think they can beat Philadelphia? I mean, any given Sunday, but I still think the Eagles are in for a second straight Super Bowl. But like I said, it's just week one. Week one overreactions are common. I'm sure I've had plenty of them in the past 24 hours, but at the end of the day, you just got to build off of it and move on. And that's what, I know every coach, it's a cliche saying, but you build off of it and you move on. And we'll see if the Packers can build off of this, and we'll see if Detroit can learn from this, because that's what they have to do. Heaven help me. Moving to the NFC South. My pick, the Falcons. It seemed like a lot of weird shit happened yesterday. And honestly, maybe it is just because it's week one. It's almost like the starters preseason. Falcons lose to the Bucs 23-20 on Younghoe Koo's missed field goal right there at the end, a kick that he usually makes 10 out of 10 times in his sleep. The Falcons have themselves a quarterback. If anyone who knows me was chanting from the high heavens for Michael Penix to start last year sooner than he did, because I knew Kirk Cousins wasn't that guy, and I knew Kirk Cousins' body wasn't what it was before because he had just gone through an Achilles tear at 35 plus years old. He couldn't move. He had a few good games. Yeah, I know they nicknamed him Kirko Chains, and he was swag surfing in the ATL and everything. They taught him how to do it, and he was one of the homies. He was rocking the chains. I'm sorry, he was never that guy. Michael Penix is that guy, and if you need any proof alone, look at that drive when he dove on fourth down he barely got that, and that's a competitor. That's something the Falcons haven't had since their Super Bowl appearance. Not to say Matt Ryan wasn't a competitor, because he was. Obviously, he was a multiple-time Pro Bowler and won an MVP. But Matt Ryan's later years, you kind of got the sense that he succumbed to the reality that, yeah, we're not getting back there. Matt Ryan took a pretty big nosedive at the end of his career. I mean, he was still effective, went to the Colts, so still wasn't the same guy, but that was my silver lining from this game. The Bucks, Emeka Ibuka had a phenomenal showing for the first game, rookie out of Ohio State, who helped torch my Vols last year in the playoffs, and then went and torched Oregon, went and torched Texas, went and torched who did they? I don't even remember who they played in the national championship game because it was not even close. But a lot of weird stuff happened. Younghoe Koo usually makes that kick. Falcons defense, I mean, they gave up 23 points. Baker wasn't great, wasn't horrible either. But my biggest takeaway from that game is that the Falcons have themselves a quarterback, and that breeds trouble for the rest of the NFC South. They lost that game. They're behind the 8 ball in the division. Now the division loss, but 16 games to go. Who knows what can happen? I never have been a Baker believer, and I'm not going to start today. And I'm pretty big fan of Michael Penix, and I have been for about a year. He's definitely not the third best quarterback in the league, and definitely doesn't throw the prettiest spiral, as if someone's in the live chat right now. But yeah, I can't really say much about the missed field goal because there were a lot of them. We're going to get into another one here in just a second. But fans in Atlanta have to be encouraged. I know it was a hard way to lose. But you didn't experience what happened later on that night to another Dirty Bird fan base, did you? So at least you can go walk away with that. But overall, let me know what you think in the comments, because I am very curious to think what people think of that. No, I don't care about the missed kick that happens, but is Younghoe Koo that guy? Not Younghoe Koo. Is Michael Penix that guy to you? I think he's that guy. I think he's going to prove it over the course of this season. Not saying he's going to make the Pro Bowl or anything, but he's going to be good enough to win them some games, and he's going to be good enough to win that division. I'm still sticking with my pick. Sorry, I did nothing about week 1, aside from a few instances. Green Bay has convinced me to think otherwise. I still think the Ravens are going to run away with the AFC North. I still think that. I mean, may they, with the Bills' ease of schedule, who knows? But there's a lot of question marks for the Bills out of that game too. You can't overlook how bad they got gashed. Their defense looked unathletic and slow as well. Their whole entire defense did. Except for Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver made a couple of big plays. He forced the fumble on Derrick Henry. He toyed with that side of the offensive line, which definitely needs to man up. Daniel Falele was once again the target of memes on Twitter, and it's actually pretty damn funny, if I'm not even gonna lie. But when it comes to Buffalo, I thought, honestly, outside of that last gasp, that epic last hurrah that they had when they roared back in the fourth quarter, they looked pedestrian and they looked bad. Even with Josh Allen making plays and not turning the ball over, but he had 3 almost interceptions. I think Josh Allen leads the league in almost picks the past few years. Everyone always used to say it was Mahomes. I have to beg to differ now. But back to the Falcons and the Buccaneers. And nothing about that game makes me convinced that the Buccaneers are going to be some world beater and, run away with the division. I still have the Falcons winning that division just because I believe in that quarterback more. I know everyone will look at the numbers last year and be like, how could you possibly not believe in Baker? Well, if it wasn't for a bad coaching decision, Baker wouldn't have been in the playoffs last year. That's why. And it would have been the Falcons who had started Penix midway through the season after Kirk Cousins struggled mightily in the latter half of his final few starts. I don't think Kirk Cousins will ever start in the NFL again. But we're going to get into the last game with a lot of weird kicks. Oh my God, my hated Bengals beat the Browns 17-16. Is there hope in Cincy? Man, they're 1-0 for the first time in half a decade. I think if you're a Bengals fan, you need to come away from that game more concerned than relieved. Yeah, you won in week 1. But you had 7 yards the entire second half with that high-powered offense. Joe Burrow got me 10 fantasy points. And that's not why I'd be concerned, because fantasy points could care less about. It was because he only threw for 110 yards, I believe. He got outplayed by a 42-year-old, 41-year-old Joe Flacco. The only reason Joe Flacco threw 2 interceptions was because his receivers dropped the pass that hit him in the hand. Cedric Tillman, former Tennessee Vol. How'd that taste, Cedric? Then you have a rookie kicker miss a 26-yard field goal that would have put the Browns ahead. And their defense was wrecking Cincinnati's offensive line. They just sacked Joe Burrow, I believe, 3 straight times before that drive. And he missed an extra point, too. That would have made it a tie game when he kicked that go-ahead field goal. How does Cincinnati only have 7 yards of offense in the second half and you come away encouraged by that? And a bad Browns offense dices your defense up and you have a bunch of costly defensive penalties. I mean, yeah, I know as a Ravens fan, they have no room to talk because their defense is just as bad, almost giving up 500 yards to the Bills. But it's not Cleveland. I can say that. This is the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. I'm not a big fan, aside from James Cook, of the Bills' offense on paper. But aside from their line, of course, they can protect Josh Allen like no other. But as a fan of the, I just don't, unless you're just that delusional, which is very, very possible given that fan base, you have to come away more concerned than relieved. Even though you got the result that you were earning for last year when you lost to the Patriots in week 1 at home. You won a road game in week 1. It happens to be a division game. Gives you a leg up in the division. But at the same time, how are you going to stop high-powered offenses? That was not a high-powered offense. And honestly, they left a lot of points on the board. A lot. You're not going to get that fortunate every time. That's why I don't think Cincinnati's going to make the playoffs. Even with Trey Hendrickson back there, it didn't really make much of a difference. Shamar Stewart had a batted pass, but oh, goody. Oh, well. Cleveland still moved the ball at will. They just couldn't capitalize in the end. And a lot of Joe Flacco teams are known for not capitalizing on the end of drives. But, I guess they're going to walk away and say, we did what we wanted to do. There's no reason we're going to build on this. We're going to go in and study film, which I have no doubt they will. Mostly because I believe in Joe Burrow, not because of that coach. Like I said, it's always unfortunate that Joe Burrow's a division rival, because if he wasn't, I don't dislike Joe Burrow per se. I just dislike that he wears those stripes. But if you look at it, if I had to do a pie chart divide of hope, concern for the Bengals, it'd be 80% concern, 20% hope, 20% encouragement. Because I'm sorry, if that wasn't the Browns, you ain't winning that game. If that was anyone, if you're playing the Browns, I can think of maybe that would, again, them, because the Browns do have Myles Garrett, who's a generational talent. But overall, I'm just not sold on Cincinnati, and I never will be until they fix that defense. As great as it is to have 2 practically number 1 wide receivers and probably the greatest in the game today outside of Justin Jefferson, and now he's the best in the game today. And he didn't look like it on Sunday. He didn't look like it yesterday. T. Higgins had a few good moments, but he didn't look like neither of them look like their contract values, which I know is going to change. That's not who they are. But yeah, when you pay that many people on your offense and you come from a mom and pop shop of an organization, you're not going to have money to pay everybody else. And at least they did take a step forward in that regard too, and actually pay stars for a change. But it took Joe Burrow going on a media tour. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. That was orchestrated and planned by he and his people, and it was smart because he knew if he didn't, and he pecked everyone's watching during Super Bowl week. He knew, and he had a tour of shows, and he put pressure on the Bengals organization, and credit to him for doing that. But now it's coming back to bite him in the ass because he has no defense that's going to help him. And their offensive line is highly suspect again. I still can't. That's what I'm saying. You pay 2 receivers, you leave, and then you pay Trey Hendrickson at least for 1 more year, but you leave everything else to chance. Their window is past unless they sell the team and you got a better owner that's willing to spend more money. I mean, it sucks to say that as if you're objectively looking at it as a sports fan, but that's Cincinnati for you. That's why they're hard to root for. That's why the Brown family is hard to root for. If anything, they make you dislike the Bengals more than the Bengals, even though they do talk a lot. Their fans do talk a lot of trash for a team fan base that's never won anything. But overall, if you come away from this game encouraged as a Cincinnati fan, I'm not going to sit there and blame you because as a Ravens fan, we lost. We're 0-1, you're 1-0, have your victory lap. But at the same time, like I said before, you got to get that defense fixed, and there's no fixing that group. Unless you make a big splash trade, I don't see that happening. Who knows? But like I said, I've gone on an epic rant about the Ravens choking multiple times. I got to get off here and watch Monday Night Football. And as you heard earlier, I've got to get to a nightly conjugal visit with my fiance who was working the night shift to the hospital tonight. Conjugal visit, those of you who get that reference. But we're going to get into a new section called Mad Minute. And what I mean by Mad Minute is I'm going to take roughly 1 to 5 minutes, hopefully closer to 1 tonight. And I'm just going to quick react to some of my favorite takes in sports over the previous night that I've seen. Stuff that I feel deserves some attention, but not a full segment, show segment worth of attention. So we're going to begin this Mad Minute off today talking about Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward's receivers let him down as bad as Lamar Jackson's receivers used to let him down against Pittsburgh. Cam Ward's receivers let him down more than a child that's raised in a single-parent household's father let him down. I could count at least 4 darts in the last 2 drives alone that Cam Ward threw that would have gotten them into plus territory. That Calvin Ridley had dropped 2 of them. Calvin Ridley, who's supposed to be a sure-handed wideout. I mean, they had the Broncos on the ropes, and a lot of people were picking the Broncos to win the AFC West this year, given how Bo Nix looked last year, and the Titans made them look pedestrian. Give them credit until Cam Ward's receivers came along and let him down and dropped the ball. And as I could hear this, you can hear my dog whining in the background because she won't shut up. Dixie, go away. Sorry. But Calvin Ridley was awful yesterday. They do need to give Cam Ward some help. I do agree wholeheartedly on that. We'll see what happens, but I think it's encouraging. It's everyone always, you got to try to find some silver lining in a loss, but I think Cam Ward's performance was encouraging despite him being very, very limited in terms of what he had at his disposal. So, Cam Ward and the Titans. Let's move on to a quick hit about Bo Nix and the Broncos. Bo Nix, the Tennessee defense made him look pedestrian yesterday. He did not look like the Bo Nix that we got to see last year. But who knows? It's week 1. Got a lot of time to improve. We'll see if that defense. And shout out to J.K. Dobbins, by the way. He's been through a lot. We still love him here in Ravens Nation. We wish it would have panned out with him. It didn't. But shout out to J.K. Dobbins for having the game-sealing touchdown. It was great to see. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers throws 4 touchdown passes on his former team, and he let him know about it. Can't necessarily say I blame him. As big of a fruitcake as I think Aaron Rodgers is now, at least he still has some of that dog in him. Some of that dog that led him to 4 MVP awards. Should have led him to more than 1 Super Bowl appearance and win, but it hasn't. We won't get into that. We'll get into that another day. But Steelers, middle of the pack team, Jets, encouraging that you even put up that many points. We're in the game that to begin with. So, quick hit number 3. Moving on to San Francisco. They got to win. Only 17-13, but Brock Purdy looked bad. What is up with this guy? Is he becoming Mr. Irrelevant again? Maybe. At least he got paid. At least he got his money. I'm all for someone getting paid. But overall, the 49ers aren't going to go far. They're not going to be back at that point where we're at in the Super Bowl if Brock Purdy doesn't get his shit together. I'll tell you that right now. Moving on. Carolina, 10 points in a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bryce Young, 18-35, 154 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks, QBR of 20.1. Y'all, he's just not built for the NFL. He's too short. He can't see over the line. We saw this with Johnny Manziel. Is it time to shelf the Bryce Young experiment in Carolina? It is. Not only does he not have any weapons around him really to make him that much better, he's not capable of elevating a team like he was in college. Trust me, as a Tennessee alum, I saw plenty of Bryce Young when he was at Alabama. But the Bryce Young experiment in the NFL, like the experiment with many Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL, it's just not working. I'm sorry. It's time to hang it up in Carolina and move on. You've had enough time. Next one, Miami Dolphins. Wow. Smoked 33-8. The Dolphins I picked to make the playoffs. I'm not looking too smart about that right now. To Daniel Jones, the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jones, 22 of 29, 272 yards. Touchdown, no interceptions, played a clean game. Another Alabama quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who I say is Tua turned the ball over. I know, not the first one to say it, won't be the last. 14 and 23, 114 yards, touchdown, 2 picks, 3 sacks. His QBR was 2.7, 2.7, less than 3. Think about that. That the lowest QBR that I can remember, I'm sure there's been one, was Joe Flacco. This is Joe Fluco numbers. 0.3 against Houston in 2012, and then a few weeks later against Peyton Manning and the Broncos, he had a 0.4. This is just above that. It's that bad. And these were blowout losses too. Miami receiving, Tyreek Hill, 4 catches, 40 yards. Wasn't impressive. Went off on the sideline. Jalen Waddle, 4 catches, 30 yards. Was not impressive. Had the pleasure of watching Tyreek Hill on the sideline. Dolphins, got to get your shit together too, or it's going to be a long season for you, and we're going to see at the end what really happens to you all. But going into some more chat here. We thought he was, but now we're seeing more of the same. Now, I agree with that one, man. I agree with that wholeheartedly. DJ looked awesome. Dolphins are absolutely horrid, and Mike McDaniel needs to be on the hot seat. Yes, he does. I think Mike McDaniel will be an offensive coordinator at this time next year if it keeps going in this direction. And we were never sold on Mike McDaniel to begin with. For those of you wondering, this is my friend Christian in the chat, who he and I speak regularly about football. We were excited for yesterday, but unfortunately, it was spoiled because we saw more of what we've witnessed for the last few years. But overall, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone after this year. He's definitely on the hot seat. I know Miami will push a coach out the door. They definitely will, unless you're the Heat and you're Eric Spoelstra. That's a whole other sport, a whole other league. But last thing we're going to get into today is a game that's actually already on currently at the moment. Vikings and Bears, who wins? The Bears are up 7-3, I believe, right now. Let me make sure that I'm current on that. Yeah, Bears up 7-3, Chicago 38. I do believe that I picked I can't remember. I do believe I picked the Vikings to win this one, so I'm going to have to go down with the ship on that one as well. Who knows? Maybe Caleb Williams will throw for 250 and 3 touchdowns, look like the number 1 overall pick, and the Bears will win, and the Bears fans will think that they're going to the Super Bowl, even though we know the Bears ain't going to no Super Bowl. Let me know in the comments, though, who you think is going to win. Let me know what you think about the Ravens' epic collapse. Let me know what you think about the Bengals finally starting off 1-0. Let me know what you think about my take on the Packers being the favorites in the NFC North. Vikings offense looks rough. So, yeah, maybe the Bears will win. But luckily, I bet on the Bears and I bet on the Vikings. So, either way it goes, I'm a winner. So, that's it for another edition of the Cory Standing Show, everybody. We're going to be back on Wednesday to preview the Thursday night game. Then we'll be back on Friday and then Saturday and Sunday. And that's the schedule we're going to be sticking to for the most part here for football season. Don't forget, merch is on the way. The link to be ordering it will be available shortly. Hopefully, I'm hoping at the most a month it'll be available for you to start ordering. But other than that, we're going to be introducing some new content segments. We're going to be having guests. It's not just going to be my face that you're looking at here soon. Going to give some of you the opportunity to come on here and a little bit of a call-in segment, if you will, and just voice your opinion for a few and see if you like to go back and forth, see if you have the guts to go back and forth with yours truly. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. But stay tuned. You all remember, like the video if you enjoyed it on YouTube. Subscribe. Please click that bell button to be notified of when we're dropping our live content. This is the Cory Standing Show. Thank you for tuning in to my first football rant of the season. It's going to be the first of many, and we'll see you in the next one.